And moving away from Kenya, of course, you do have a presence in Uganda and Tanzania and within the region. But are you planning to expand even further across the continent?
Yes, we're looking especially at the Eastern African region, Greater East Africa. That is the region that we'll be looking at first to go into at the moment. So Ethiopia, for us, is a market that holds a lot of promise. Somaliland, we've already started doing a few engagements here and there. Somalia, not yet, but those are all countries we're looking at, and the DRC as well. Rwanda and Burundi, we do cover from our Uganda office.
Okay, and when it comes to tailoring, your content based on the country specific that you are in, how do you see the difference in terms of the region, especially because you're already operating in a lot of, let's say, Tanzania and Uganda? What are some of the major differences that you've noted in the audience from these different countries compared to Kenya when it comes to consumption of such content? Is it very stark of a difference?
Yes, it is. Actually, it's interesting. Each country has its own cultural nuances.
Yeah.
For example, and remember this, we learned the hard way, you can never show an ad with a lady wearing a headscarf in Uganda in an ad, because in Uganda, apparently the ladies only wear headscarves when they're mourning.
Okay.
So which in Kenya is something which is very different.
Yes.
It's something normal. But in Uganda, it's when you're mourning and someone has passed away, so they'll be wondering why you're showing that in an ad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that took an ad running then for you to realize, okay, that was not the best.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Okay.
Then Tanzania,
yeah.
For example, you see like in Kenya, where you'd have an outspoken youth speaking to an elder in a maybe casual and informal way. That would not be accepted in Tanzania. That would be seen as extremely rude, and that your commercial will be rejected. So you have to also be careful about all these nuances.
It's very interesting. But in terms of freedom, of being able to play around with the creativity in terms of the content you're putting out, is it equal across the board?
Yes, I would say it is. It is quite equal.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's finding that cultural hook for that particular market. What really resonates with them? What makes them happy? What makes them laugh? Or what moves them? What moves them emotionally?
And you also said, actually, when you joined the Booker program, when you're talking to that particular audience there, that, a lot of millennials are in this space, in the advertising space, in the creative space, and it keeps growing. So the youth, and you've even said it right now, the youth is where this particular sphere is very strong in. For those young people who want to enter this space and to make a name for themselves, what would set them apart? What are the skills that they need to have in order to thrive, especially given the current environment in the advertising media space?
First thing I would say that they would need to have is a curiosity. Curiosity about people. Finding out about people's motivations, what moves people, understanding how people live and why they do the things they do. Once you're curious and you understand those, then it's not too difficult then to design messages or to come up with messages or put messages out in different mediums that would cause them to either like a product that you're working with or a service that you're selling, or changing a mindset that they have.
Okay. And still on the youth, you, like we just spoke about in the beginning, you were people who got together to come away from formal employment and do your own thing and set up your own company. These days, given the unemployment levels in the country, a lot of people say that, okay, if you can't find a job, just make one, start a business. Do you agree that that would be the best way to go about things?
I would say creating your own job is a good thing, as long as you know what it is that you're doing, and at least you have some expertise in it, and you do know the job. I mean, sometimes because the jobs are not readily available, you'll have to basically figure it out as you go along, which is always it's not the ideal way to go. But do understand, because of the circumstances right now, that's something that has to happen. Ideally, it would be a situation where you'd first get a job in that particular industry, get to learn about the industry, and then step out and do your own thing.
Okay.
That's the path that we took. I know it's not a path that is available to everyone. So if you do make the plunge into an industry that you really don't understand or have worked in before, I would say even before you commit some money, at least take a bit of time to understand it or observe what happens in that industry.
Okay, thank you for that. And even as we wrap up, some of your future predictions for the space, for the advertising industry in general, what you are hoping to see perhaps in the next few years, and of course for Saracen as well.
What we're hoping to see is a lot more of our stories being told, a lot more local advertising being developed. Unfortunately, quite a number of ads are still coming in from a global perspective, which have been shot for continental perspective. So we really want to grow this industry here in terms of shooting our own commercials, shooting our own, well, it be documentaries, movies, infomercials, and so on. But the other thing that we do see that's going to happen, of course, is going to be the disruption of tech, and that happens across the world.
Yes.
So we'd also like to see a lot more automation of some of the tasks that are happening now between the interface between advertising agencies and media houses. It's still quite manual, where if you want to purchase space and orders and so on and so forth, you still have to send them, let's say, on an email, then they have to key it into their system, and so there's no automation between that, which results in a lot of inefficiencies.
Yes. So, but you also, we speak about artificial intelligence, we speak about the Internet of Things and how it's revolutionizing so many different industries. Do you think that we are on the cusp of that, but Kenya is yet to adopt a lot of these methods?
Yes, I would say that, because another sad fact is that a lot of advertisers, except the large ones, don't even rely on audience research to make decisions. So you find a lot of decisions are basically made on a subjective basis, saying, I think this channel is better, I think it's online is better than traditional TV or radio, without looking at any research. It's very subjective. Once we get into a space where people understand and use data to drive their decision making, then things like artificial intelligence, and which results in programmatic driven advertising, where your advertising is optimized on the fly by machines basically and algorithms, that is going to start happening. But the first stage would be, first of all, for Kenyan advertisers to start really appreciating data-driven advertising.
So of course that also brings in the predictability factor when you have such technology to rely on, that yes, we can get these outcomes as opposed to the KPIs being speculative. Absolutely.
In terms of also measurement, in terms of return on investment measurement, that's a big area in which we want to venture into, and to help our clients to understand the econometric model about marketing and seeing what marketing channels deliver the most return on investment for our clients. And that is also one of the reasons why we're also looking at getting onto the book and getting into listing, to enable us to raise funds to invest in these kind of technologies.
Okay, and majority of the businesses in Kenya today come under the SME label, as we've seen, over about 70%. Do you think that SMEs pay enough attention to the marketing aspect of things, or do we need to keep pushing that agenda even further? Because it seems like the larger corporates spend a lot of money when it comes to advertising, but the smaller businesses, maybe is it that they don't have the capital, or is it that it's just not as much of a necessity?
I would say from interactions with quite a number of businesses that we've worked with, strangely enough, we've worked with quite a number who've been very, very successful when they have started their formal marketing programs. But there's a major fear of going to an agency because they believe that agencies are going to be extremely expensive.
Okay.
So us, Saracen, and where we started from, we also started from being a small company. So we do understand their needs and their fears. And one of the things that we want to do as well is have a program specific to SMEs where they can come to us and we can give them solutions that will help them drive their businesses at a friendly cost, but also which will also show them the return they'll get in their marketing. Instead of thinking about it as marketing spend, is a marketing investment to get money back, which should actually give you back more than you put out there in your marketing budgets. So that is something that we want to do, and also embark on kind of like an education job for the SME segment to understand the benefits of marketing and what it can do for them.
And given the current economic situation, a lot of media as well have had to pull back on their staff that we've seen this year, many instances, simply because ad revenue has fallen. And we see that as a reality in the country right now. Do you see that turning around anytime soon?
It can turn around, And if, especially the government does release a lot of monies that are being held in VAT refunds and withholding tax credits, that will really help to restart the economy and spur economic activity once more.
So a lot of the pending bills.
A lot of the pending bills, yeah. Especially the VAT refunds and withholding tax credits. We've seen that affecting quite a number of our clients, especially those in the manufacturing sector. They've really been hard hit, and some of them in the service sector as well.
Yes. Thank you so much for speaking to us today. And any final comments you may have for Saracen?
Well, we see the future being very bright for us, and we want to ensure that this company is going to succeed from us unto the 7th generation. So it's to ensure continuity of the company.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, from that conversation, we want to go right into the markets. Let's take a look at how the numbers played out this week around compared to last.
This is KTN News.